Come on. Yes, ma'am.
I've officially gavelled this meeting to order. Thank you to Mr. Bradshaw for this gavel to help things run better. This is going to be the May 14th meeting of the Civil Service Merit Board. We'll start off by calling the roll. Stephanie Taylor.
Present.
Cynthia Manning-Durham.
Here.
Jane Roberts.
Present.
Scott Schimmel is not here just yet. And I'm Bill Lyons, and I'm here. So let us begin with the motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting that was the April 9th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Approve. Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any motions made and seconded? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes are approved. So it's time for our reports. Mr. Bradshaw, you have the Civil Service report for us?
Yes, thank you, sir. Some of these we're just going to review another month worth of data, right? But I have distributed the posting stats. That's the long sheet you guys are probably familiar with at this point. This last month has been, we've spent quite a lot of time on firefighter. There's nothing I really particularly wanted to highlight other than some of these number figures at the end, and obviously not all of those are controlled by civil service. All postings are sort of a collaborative effort between HR, the hiring department, and civil service. So I think the column that we tend to have the most influence over is that third from the end that says days from receipt to referral. That's where our testing process lives. From the date from when we receive the requisition to when we refer the candidates, we have maybe some role in some of the other columns, but it's just a nice way to count those out. So, but that's what we've done so far, and since January, so in calendar year 2025. But, any questions about anything in that spreadsheet? Like I said, on the I do not have a testing stats handout today. We'll have some data for you at next month's meeting. We spent this last month doing firefighter testing. So we've done several hundred firefighter written exams and physical performance tests. Just wrapping that up, so we'll have those statistics. It's done now, and the firefighter referral has been sent to the fire department. They're going to start doing interviews. But we did a few stragglers, we did some makeup exams, that sort of thing. But I will have those final numbers for you guys at the next month's report. There were no other real tests done this month as we focused on that big volume for firefighter. That's why there's no handout for testing stats today. So the budget, I guess I have another budget handout. We're still looking good. There's a few unprocessed payments or payments that have not yet made it to the register yet for whatever reason. So I think some of the items we tend to look at. Obviously, the first couple of pages is mostly personnel stuff, which we don't have much control over. Office supplies, which ends on page 3, we're doing just fine on. Actually, have a little bit of room to spare, knock on wood. And then that next section, which is what we call office services, you get the big line items like legal outside counsel and litigation expenses, miscellaneous professional services are sort of the 3 big ones, and they're all on page 4. There are a few outside legal counsel bills that we have submitted have not yet made their way to the register yet, so we're probably not doing that good as this report would seem to indicate. We're going to be pretty close to budget on that one, I think, by the end. And then got a little bit of wiggle room there, miscellaneous professional services. That's our testing, mostly goes to our testing provider, eSkill. So that's, we're still in a good place. The bottom of that line item, which is on page 5, for office services, we're at about 75% in that category. So that's most of our operating dollars is in this category. So we're doing okay. There's only, a month and a half left, right, in the fiscal year. So when the wind and the creek don't rise, as we say, well, we're going to make it just fine. Great. So Some update on our modernization initiatives. We have reached out to a provider on our digitization project, met with them and reviewed all of the materials in our office that we're going to digitize, which is mostly board minutes and materials from past years that are all sort of written in books right now. They're in books and they only live in my office, which is not transparent, as you guys know. So money was approved, we're going to spend it, and we're going to hire a contractor to come in and digitize all those records for us, and we'll make them available just to the probably on our SharePoint site for city use. But that is moving forward. They've not actually started scanning yet, but we have met with them and have an agreement in place. So that's moving forward. The eSkill contract is going to run out it's about the 1st of September or so. I'm talking to purchasing about renewing that and also using the funds that were approved in the budget amendment in March to increase our licenses for online testing. As you guys may recall from past meetings, we currently have 150 online. That's remote proctored exams for kids to take exams from home or wherever, not coming into in person. We're going to move that up to 50, to 500, which is our plan from 150. So working on that, working with purchasing on that, and I'd love to get that contract adjusted before the term's up, but if nothing else, we can maybe get that going for the next term that starts in September. So that's the plan anyway. In terms of the rules review and update project, Devin is working away, working hard. We've had a few meetings, and I know he's been in contact with some other stakeholders within the city, and making good progress on that. And I think less than 1% before I leave is the plan. So that's our hope. But if not, it'll be after that, and I'll still be around to talk about it. Outside legal counsel, like I said last month, Dr. Lyons and I sat down with Law Director Swanson and Anderson and talked through what needs we may have for legal counsel. Right now, it really just consists of course, obviously the project we've already hired him for, and then those 2 items that are in Chancery Court. And I think we're going to figure out if we need to change our representation to a different outside counsel for that. We've not really made a decision on that at this time. I don't know if you did anything to add to that or not.
I spoke with the law director this week, and he's working on that item.
Great. Oracle recruiting project is still steaming ahead. I know Laura was in a meeting this morning with the IT director and others to discuss HR and others to discuss some of the particulars of the ongoing project as we continue to try to get our new HR software system up and running, which will be a big deal for the whole city. Payroll, benefits, HR, us, and others. So huge project. We're happy to be a part of it. Provide some feedback on that. It is still moving forward, and it's a heavy lift, and a lot of people are involved. A lot of moving parts. Going well.
And I know we've mentioned it before, but what does the project timeline finish look like for that?
As far as I know, they're still planning on an October launch day. That's been the plan from the start. We'll see if it gets delayed as we get a little closer. But it's a very aggressive timetable, and the provider's been very aggressive, and ITS as well. There's been a lot of meetings. I think these guys have been in a lot of them too. Many hours of meetings and discussions and communication with the vendor. High Street is the name of the company that's helping us out for this new Oracle platform. We're calling it a Fusion migration. IIT calls it the Oracle project sometimes.
Okay.
Our current grievances and appeals, there's 3 at this moment active. We have 2, let me get this wrong, Teresa. We've got 2 grievances and 1 disciplinary appeal that are active at this moment. Only 1 actually has a hearing scheduled at this time, and then the other 2 have not yet got the hearing scheduled. So that's sort of where we're at on that. But at this moment, only 3, which is lower than we've had in previous years and months. So, that's really, I think that's it for my report today. Happy to answer your questions.
Any questions? Good report, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give you several things, so just work with me for a few minutes, but I won't take too much time. But I want to talk a little bit about the budget first, where the city we've requested from the city the HR budget to include a longevity study, and it's in the budget. We asked for a couple other things that didn't get approved, but we did get approved to look at longevity. The way that it, and hopefully City Council will approve the budget at the end of the month. And if that is the case, then beginning July 1, we will start looking for a consultant to contract with to look at the way we currently do longevity. The way that it works within the city is that once you've been here, and I'm gonna get this 4 years, I need somebody to,
That's right.
4 years, then you get $120 per year up to 20 years, which equates to $2,400. I've been back here a little over 4 years. And so I get, I think, $4 and some change on my pay period. And so that is representative of my longevity. So what we want to look at is to say, how is that a retention strategy? Is that really $4 per pay period? Is that going to retain me to work in the city? We're thankful for the longevity, but we want to look at what are some other ways to incentivize people to stay longer with the city. And I'm going to talk a little bit about data in a few minutes and metrics about turnover rates and the length of time people are staying. So if we think about this, and if you remember, it takes 20 years to get to that full $2,400. When I give you some stats in a few minutes, it'll go there. Staff changes, we had one change in the last month, and we've already filled the position. We have brought in a person from inspections, a long-term employee, and so we have an HR generalist, Rob Clark, that has come in, and so we're fully staffed yet again. We're so excited about that. I'm going to talk to you about an end of the year report for HR metrics. We are not ready to present this yet. We're going to get this to the mayor, but there are a couple statistics that I wanted to share with you all that HR is keeping track of as part of this. So we're looking at turnover rates, separation rates, promotion, new hire, performance measures, tuition reimbursement, education incentives, the use of the language line, supervisory training, and career fairs. So we're keeping track of all of this types of things that we're doing within the city of Knoxville. So if we go back to that one thing that I wanted to tell you about the I'll start with separations. We had a 14% decrease in regular employees separating between 2023 and 2024. So that's saying that we're keeping people a little bit longer. But when we look at this, the number of individuals who are leaving, the majority of the people that are leaving are between 0 and 4 years. So if we know that, and we talk about the idea of when you get longevity takes 20 years to get. So most people aren't even seeing this longevity if they're leaving within the first 4 years. So we're trying to look at that. It's about 3.9 years. So if we can look at how do we do that, we know that theoretically or mathematically or any way you want to look at it, employees aren't staying in most employers for 20 years. So that's not what we are going to look at. But what we want to look at is how we can keep people to stay longer with the city and start thinking about the return on investment. How long does it take to do that? So the other piece of this employee separations, when we started looking at the average age of those individuals, the average age of those people that are leaving mostly are between the ages of 22 and 31 years old. So when we look at this, we've got to start thinking about what do we need to do to incentivize, to encourage, to retain a workforce that is at that Gen Z, millennial level, Gen Z level right there. Not Gen Z, Gen Z, yeah, okay. So how do we get to that population in here? And then we started looking at the amount of pay. So we know that most of the people that are leaving are between making $15 to $21 an hour. So they're the lowest paid employees. So when we're looking at this, we're gonna have to think about what are the things that we need to do. People leave, believe it or not, for $1. People leave employment for $1. And so what are those reasons why people stay? We think about, we have some of the best benefits around and our benefits rates have not changed, but why? What can we do to increase those employees from leaving? So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and talk a little bit about that as well. And performance, we had our bonus payouts. They were due to HR on May 1st, so all of the end of the year bonuses should be paid out by the beginning of June. And then the next supervisory training is June 12th. This is one that if y'all just want to have a little bit of fun, this is the one we're going to have Lego serious play, where you actually build teams based on Legos. The actual Legos that you stepped and you broke your feet on with your children, that's the Legos that we're actually playing with. And our team's done it. We did it at a national conference, a state conference, and we're going to have it here for our supervisors in June. And we're going to talk a little bit about the model employer. One of the things that the city and the mayor has advocated is becoming a model employer, an employer of choice. One of the things that we're going to look at and we're going to begin implementing on July 1 is this having a day of service. The city of Knoxville is one of the only municipalities in this area that is actually implementing a day of service. So we're going to put into effect that any of our employees, full-time employees, that they can do 4 or 8 hours of service within a fiscal year, and then they can go to nonprofits within the city limits and give back as a day of service. So we're excited about offering that. That's going to be one of those things when we think about why do people stay, and giving our employees want to give back. And so we're excited about being able to do that as well. And then I want to talk about 2 more things. The TPMA, we went every year, the Tennessee Personnel Management Association has a national conference. I spoke at the conference, and next year, Leah Pendarvis, who's our training and internship coordinator, will be representing the city and will be helping to coordinate that training as well. I want to talk about internships. One of the things that you will find really exciting, every year we have summer in the city. Leah coordinates this as well. This year we will have 19 interns starting the beginning of June. And we had over 150 applications this year. When I first started almost 5 years ago, we barely had enough people to fit the departments. This year we had 150 applications, so some things are going well. So I'm excited about that. One of the other things that I want to tell you about is that our business partner, our consulting team, has been asked to speak at the National Public Sector HR Conference in Cleveland, and they're going to be presenting on recruiting entry-level talent. So they're going to be on a national stage. So we're doing some really good things here. We've been doing a lot of recruitment as well, trying to build and trying to increase that. I can give you lots and lots of lists there, but I won't do that. So we've been doing a lot there. And I think I'll stop. So we've been busy, but I hope it was interesting for you. Thank you.
Okay, that was great, thanks. So new business centers around the selection committee candidates and how we're going to handle that. So I will turn that over to Jay Roberts.
Okay, well, I guess I'll drop some knowledge. I know everybody's probably waiting here. So we have the selection committee. We have reached out, and thank you so much to the civil service staff getting us all squared away with our interviewing and beautifully laid out. That is not an easy process with screening and time set up. So we're interviewing 6 candidates next week. And so yeah, there's that. So we are excited, still just finishing up on final touches on what that interview process actually looks like. And we're gonna meet again and just make sure that we are ready to train as a committee and just expert interviewers at that point. So really looking forward to this moment in time. It's been a long time coming, so I'm excited for civil service and HR helping too and lending us some room to conduct all the interviews. So
Appreciate
Yes.
all of your great
Thank
work on
you.
that. I know it's been intense, and we always got to remember that we've had Nick doing 2 jobs.
Yes.
I don't know, and doing really well too. So
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
yes, thanks to Nick and all of the civil service. It's been amazing work with on this, and really too big shout out to our employee reps and Dave Brace. Been spent a lot of time on this, so I'm personally very excited to begin interviewing next
That's awesome.
week. And then I know this kind of bleeds into maybe part or number 5 on here with that discussion of how the actual board, will carry out our selection process for the final candidate. So we have already marked off time for the second round of interviews. The committee definitely feels like, we're going to see how these 6 go, and then we need to bring them in for a second round of interviews. We have that prepared, ready to go. To me, I think it's just make sure we get the final best in front of the board. So I know Nick had shared in the past about the last time we hired civil service executive secretary director at that time. I think there was about 6 or so on that list that maybe came across the board, and I'd have to go through the minutes on that. But I think at least it looks like we're doing a more thorough job on the back end interviewing before bringing those final candidates to the board. So with that in mind, I mean, we could, as early as, we could do it in June, but I don't think we're going to do that. July meeting and everything, I think that's something that we need to have really scheduled time out. We have a standing board meeting for July. And I also know the board, the previous time had their own special meeting called to go through the candidates. So I think we just have to look at what those logistics are going to be, because we're to that point. And ideally, I don't want to keep candidates waiting forever either, right? So that's my number one.
So is the thinking of the committee that that you'll recommend 1 or narrow it down to 2 or 3? And it said when we weigh in,
Sure.
what should we be looking at?
That's really, I want to at least bring 2, if not 3 before. I know we set out these arbitrary numbers, right? But we really want to see what this first round interviews look like, because even for the second one, it could be obvious from there. But we just want to get you to the finalists. And then I do want to make sure we have a large enough selection, because the HR in me always gets nervous. People taking other jobs or finding out in the interview process is not a good fit. So I want to make sure we have enough to bring in front of you all. So now, like we are to that scheduling point as to how we're going to carry this last part out and what the interview process at the board level looks like for these final candidates too. So, Anderson's over there, maybe.
Actually, I think open meetings is a good segue.
Yeah, for getting into that. So. Yeah, but that's just something I want to keep on everyone's mind, as we're going to be moving pretty quick and fast coming up here. So I would love to extend an offer in July.
Yeah,
I don't
that would be
think
great.
that's something that would be impossible.
Good.
One quick question.
Sure.
In this process, is it appropriate, or do you all plan, or maybe you already have, to get like references from previous employers for these candidates?
Yes, so we do have references, and something was mentioned too. It's not just, a glowing reference from your three best friends you've worked with, right? But like trying to get if they supervised employees and what that can look like and everything. So that's something we'll be working to, following up with civil service HR on any vetting parts to that. So if anybody that comes before the board, I'll have to say they will be thoroughly vetted on that part of the screening process. So.
Any other questions? No? Thanks again. We look forward to
Yes.
finalizing this whole process.
Thank you.
Okay. And now I believe we have a little open meetings refreshers.
Yes, I'll try to keep it brief. Can I?
I think you want to just hit slideshow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there you go.
Go on to the next slide. So the purpose of the Tennessee OBB Act is an attempt to balance the need of the public to know what the government is doing with the need of members of governing bodies to deliberate and reach the best decisions. And so we'll get to this, but there are carve-outs for speaking to your attorney when it comes to the litigation matters. Next slide. The policy of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act is for the state is the formation of public policy and decisions in public business, and that those decisions shall not be conducted in secret. If there's nothing else that you want to listen to today, please remember this: multiple members of a governing body are prohibited from meeting privately to deliberate toward or make decisions about the public's business. Failing to abide by those requirements will result in your action being voided and will require you to undertake remedial work at a future meeting to make your action legal. Next slide. So all meetings of a governing body are declared to be public meetings, and that raises the question of what is a governing body, and is the Civil Service Merit Board a governing body? The Tennessee Open Meetings Act is applicable to boards and commissions of a public body, such as the City of Knoxville, with the authority to make decisions for or recommendations to the public body on policy and administration. So in this case, the City of Knoxville Charter, Article 10, Section 1003, empowers the Civil Service Merit Board. So your authority is derived from the charter. By contrast, and you can continue. So these meetings are construed in favor of the public. The public has the right to attend, observe, and hear, and we'll get to notice and how our civil service staff notices the public of these meetings. Next slide. Let's go. Meeting. So in contrast to a board or like the city council, a faculty committee at UT, for example, that derives its power from a dean, would not be a governing body that would be covered by the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, although the University of Tennessee is a public institution. The Civil Service Merit Board is likely to be considered a governing body under the statutory language. So what constitutes a meeting? The Act defines meetings as convenings of governing bodies to make a decision or to deliberate toward a decision of any type. So when you are meeting about matters of civil service protection that with another individual from this board, that would constitute a meeting. Meetings take into account deliberation to examine and consult in order to form an opinion. Those are some examples of public bodies. Chance meetings will not violate the statute, but you should not be using chance meetings as an opportunity to evade the underlying purpose of the statute. So if you see somebody on the street, you can say, great UT football game, but don't talk about civil service. Next slide. Before we get to adequate public notice, I'm going to give you some examples of behaviors to avoid. Harris, Tennessee School Board had an incident where several school board members traveled outside the state to consider a controversial restructuring program within the district. The Tennessee Court of Appeals weighed in and determined that the gathering was covered by the Open Meetings Act, and that the Act's notice requirements were not followed. The school board ultimately was required to undertake substantial reconsideration in a notice public meeting before approving the restructuring plan. Because they took the reconsideration process, the school board's action to adopt the restructuring plan was permitted by the court. Metro Nashville had several council members email one another to discuss a zoning matter that would come before the Metro Nashville Council for a vote at a future meeting. The Tennessee Court of Appeals determined that the electronic mail communications were used to deliberate about public business in circumvention of the spirit of the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. So although those individuals were not in the back smoky room that we all think of, they were circumventing the Act's purpose. There, the Metro Council members undertook robust debate following the email communications. Thus, their ultimate action did include a deliberative process at a notice public meeting, and their action was able to stand. So just remember, chance meetings, informal assemblies, and electronic communication between two or more members should not be used to deliberate or decide public business in circumvention of the Act. Adequate notice. Regular meetings and special meetings require adequate notice. Notice under the Open Meetings Act is in addition to any other notice required by law. That's kind of beyond the scope of our discussion. Next slide. So there is not one method for determining what adequate notice is. Case law provides that we just have to look at the totality of the circumstances to determine the nature of the board, the individual agenda item being considered when determining what notice is appropriate. Our Supreme Court has observed that it's impossible to formulate a general rule. The town of Oliver Springs in Kinzer v. Town of Oliver Springs placed a notice inside a city hall where everybody pays their water bill apparently, and over the police department and council room entrance for an appeal of a law enforcement officer's firing. In that instance, the notice was sufficient for the meeting, and the determination of the board in reviewing the firing was upheld. Next slide. There's a three-pronged test for adequate public notice. Notice must be posted in a location where a member of the community could be aware of such notice. In our case, notice is placed on a community calendar that the city of Knoxville maintains. Notice is also placed on the Civil Service Merit Board's website. And we have a calendar of every month's meetings that are on that website as well, and the agenda deadline to add items to that agenda. The content of the notice must reasonably describe the purpose of the meeting or the action proposed to be taken. This is particularly true when we're dealing with a special meeting. Notice must be posted at a time sufficiently in advance of the actual meeting in order to give citizens both an opportunity to become aware of and to attend the meeting. So you can't post a notice an hour before the meeting. That won't work. Next slide. Executive sessions. I think that we mentioned this at the beginning. Executive sessions will be situations, and you can continue to the next slide. It's just a quote from the case, where we're discussing matters involving litigation that would be covered by the attorney-client privilege. There has been interpreted to be a carve-out in the Tennessee Open Meetings Act for purposes of discussing litigation and potential litigation. Next slide, please. These are limited discussions. If we were to be in executive session, you would describe a set of facts. I would provide the legal implication of those facts. Anything beyond that analysis would need to be in a notice public meeting, and your deliberation about how to proceed, whether you're going to take a settlement, whether you're going to have a certain action in a lawsuit, would need to be made in the open meeting that was noticed. Next slide. So, in summary, Rule 1, your attorney has to be there. Rule 2, pending and threatened litigation must be the basis for the executive session. We're not going to have an executive session to discuss a contract. That's going to need to be in an open meeting. You can't use the executive session to deliberate or make decisions. That can be a problem, particularly when you get a group of members of a board or council together. That's a good reason to avoid those situations. And these rules apply to settlements, as I mentioned. Next slide. We're almost there, folks. Meeting minutes and records. Minutes shall be promptly and fully recorded, open to public inspection. They need to record the individuals present and all motions, proposals, and resolutions offered and results of votes taken. There was a case where I believe it was a beer board in Loudoun County did not record the individuals who were present at a meeting, and a religious institution objected to the outcome of the vote. The board had to go back and redo their work because they had not recorded the individuals that were present at the meeting. So make sure you take that down. Next slide. This is pretty obvious. Voting at public meetings has to be in the public. We're not going to pass around sheets of paper with your vote recorded in private. We need to have A or nay. Next slide. So electronic participation is generally not allowed. This is not really something that I think will be particularly used to this board. Next slide. Internet forums. Our city council has an internet forum. These have to be approved beforehand. I'm not sure that these would be applicable to this form of board, but it's a neat feature if y'all haven't reviewed that before on our city council website. Next slide. So what happens when the open meetings violation occurs? So your action will be void if you have violated the Open Meetings Act without deliberating substantially thereafter. Additionally, someone could sue and a court can step in and require you to provide reports of how you're complying with the Tennessee Open Meetings Act. So that's a big hassle. That would be a large hassle for the board and for the civil service staff. So it's best to just save things for the meeting. Next slide. Just explain what I just said. Next slide. So you can talk to the board and committee staff. You can talk to your legal advisor. You can talk to the mayor, city council members, other boards, members of the public, but you can't talk through them to get the information you need from another board member. Next slide. This is a quote from a local judge. Members of a public body may freely discuss their grandchildren, the price of a cruise, weather, events occurring in the former Soviet Union, books, movies, vacations, other topics in their personal or professional lives. Next slide. They may not discuss, however, the items set on the next agenda for the public body on which they serve, nor subjects within the jurisdiction or scope of responsibility of the public body. Items that can properly appear on an agenda of a public body and subjects on which it is empowered to act or advise are similarly forbidden for non-complying discussions by members of the public body. Last slide. When the topics for discussion or decisions are such as would appropriately be addressed at a meeting of the public body, the Open Meetings Act is applicable in the subject matter of the discussion. That was Chancellor Fansler, 2007. So I hope that wasn't too onerous for y'all, but I have lots of resources that are now on file with the Civil Service Office if you need a refresher. MTAS provides a lot of very helpful compliance information on the Tennessee Open Meetings Act and a variety of other items that might be of interest to civil service board members. Any questions?
I think if it's anything that might come before us, then only talk about it in here.
Right.
Pretty much sums it up.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's funny, that's familiar with that case of Tank Strickland, Jack McElroy of the New Sun. And y'all know the remedy is to rehear that. And of course, there was a big giant case with the Knox County Commission and the violations where actually that got a whole lot of publicity. That was about 20 years ago. I don't think we have much danger in doing any of that, given the nature of what we do. However, this has been great to make us aware. I mean, one thing that I have thought of occasionally is, and make sure that if we're going to vote on an item, that item really ought to be on, actually listed in some specificity so somebody knows
Sure.
what we're talking about. In the past, I've been a little uneasy about that sometimes.
Right.
Where it just says discuss and then we'll discuss and vote. And then really that's not appropriate. I mean, if we're going to actually vote on something, it needs to be so the public could look at it and say, okay, they're going to make a decision on this, and then I have a right to follow it.
And we could work with the civil service office staff.
Right. I haven't noticed that. But over the years I've been on this board, I've seen that happen a few times.
I think that's a good point.
Any other questions on this? Appreciate it. Anything else to come before the board today? I don't think we have any more items. Yes, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.